Today's guest, Allan, is going to share with us a few of the many experiences he's had in the paranormal over his life, including an experience with a headless woman in the middle of the woods.
Hello, my name is Allan Sweeney, and I'm very happy to be here to share some experiences I've had in my life. I apologize that you can't see my eyes today, but unfortunately I've got a little something in my eye, and this light coming here, if I took these off, it's going to be quite painful for me, so I do apologize for that. I've been into the physical and metaphysical subjects and paranormal subjects, in fact, for quite a few years now. I think it's altogether about 4,236 years. And I remember the start of it back in ancient Greece. But in this lifetime, I've taught these subjects now probably, more than 30 years, since the 1990s, although I've had so many experiences all my life. If anybody wants to find out about me, you're very welcome. And to save me talking about my life, just go onto Google for AllanSweeney.com and I'll come up, or just Allan Sweeney is enough. That's ALLANSWEENEY. And then you'll find whatever you like about me on there. I got into these subjects many, many years ago, I think in the 1980s in a bigger way, because although I'd had many experiences in life, I actually didn't believe in spirits or ghosts. Back in the 1980s, I got engaged. And I was sitting in Minnis Bay car park. Minnis Bay is a beautiful bay near Margate in England. I was sitting there in my mini car I had at the time in the summer with the windows wound down, and it was a very calm evening. We were talking about spirits and ghosts and the afterlife and God. And then she said to me, "Do you believe in this sort of thing?" And I said, "No, not at all. It's all a load of rubbish." And I really, to be honest with you now, I probably wasn't that kind on it, because I thought it was really not at all valid. And she said, "Don't say things like that." She said, "It's made me go all cold and tingly." And I had as well. And I could feel it for the first time in my life. A really severe tingling all over. Very shivery cold. It's in the middle of the summer. At that moment, from the right-hand side of the car behind me, I was driving, and from the right-hand side of the car, a black shape came round. And it came right the way around, floating, until it was by the bonnet of the car, and then it hovered on top of the bonnet. And it was a black shape of a man with a very long black cloak and a wide-brimmed hat. I've seen him since. I know many other people that have seen this particular one. At that time, my gosh, I was scared. I had just been not being kind to things like this, not believing them. And I turned to look at my fiancée, and there she was, like me, with her mouth wide open, staring in shock or surprise that this thing had appeared. And I have to say that that's the first time in my life, and maybe the only time, when I realised that when you're really scared, your knees knock together. And my knees were knocking together like crazy, because obviously we had both seen the same thing. And that proved to me evidence that two of us at the same time saw the same thing. And suddenly it disappeared. I put my little mini car in reverse as quick as I could with my knees shaking and got the hell out of there. And we went back to her house, and her brother was there. And her brother believed in ghosts. He said, "Look, if that's your first experience," he said, "don't worry." He said, "I'll take you ghost hunting. You're going to experience more straight away." So he took me to some woods which are quite well known between Deal and Dover in Kent in England. These are private woods. You're actually not allowed to go in there nowadays. But in those days, there was no private sign on. He took me in there. Now, before he took me in there, he told me the story. And since then, I've heard many other stories about it. But I will tell you exactly what he told me. So this is the first story I ever heard. about this particular ghost. It's called the Headless Grey Lady. She has been seen numerous times, even floating out of the woods into the roadside. I remember on one occasion it was on the front page of a local newspaper, and there was 4 police officers in a car travelling along that road, and they all witnessed her. So she's a very well documented and witnessed ghost. But this was my first time, and he told me the story that in the middle of these woods, which at night are very dark, if it's a cloudy night with no moon, actually you cannot even see your hand in front of your face. And he said in the middle of these woods there is a ruined manor. The story goes that the reason she's a headless grey lady is that she was riding her horse. She was the lady of the manor, maybe a couple of 100 years ago. And she was riding her horse along a pathway, and there was horses and carriage coming in the other direction. And in this area there are flint stones on pathways. Flints are very hard, sharp stones that they're used for axes and for arrows and things, and you can make sparks with them. The sparks from the wheels of the coach frightened her horse, and she was thrown off the horse, and she was beheaded by the wheels of the coach going past. So that's the story, the basic story I heard the first time. I think nowadays there's other stories. But you have to find this ruined manor first. And it's very difficult to find it when it's dark, but we managed to find it. Now, it's also very, very dangerous, actually, because it's not just about the ghost. This is also about not killing yourself in the woods. And when I say not killing yourself, in the olden days, of course, there was no electronic burglar alarms. And what they used to do in manor houses, they used to dig big pits. And on the deeds of the property, it says how many pits there are. And unfortunately, it doesn't say where they are. And at the bottom of the pits, there are stakes, sharp stakes sticking up. I was told that on the deeds of this particular property, there were 8 pits, but only 6 had been found. And teams had scoured these woods, had held hands, and they're really woods that are full of broken trees and broken branches and piles of leaves. It's very difficult to walk through the woods. You have to get a stick, a heavy stick, and tap the floor in front before you take a step. Tap hard. There we were, walking through the woods like this, because although that the woods had been scoured by teams of people, they had only found 6, which meant there was 2 left to be found. After we went there, actually, I think it was scoured again, and again no more were found. But then, about 10 years later, approximately, it was in the local newspapers. There was a child playing in the woods. He fell down one, and he was impaled on one of these stakes, and his death was partly because of that and partly because of the gases at the bottom of the pit. So if anybody goes there, it's highly dangerous, because they've now found 7 pits and there's 1 still left to be found. Now, on that occasion, I didn't see anything. I didn't feel anything. I was a beginner. But sometime later, I took 2 friends, one from Denmark, one from Finland. And we had our sticks, and we were banging the path in front to make sure we didn't commit suicide on a stake. We got towards the ruined manor house. Suddenly, ahead of us, we could see a fluorescent shape. It looked a little bit scary, to be honest with you, although I don't scare easily, but this was my first ever ghost hunting experience. I was leading, and I turned to my 2 friends, and I was going to say to them, do you want to carry on, or should we turn around? And behind me, there was nobody behind me, but behind me, on my back, 3 times, and obviously I cannot do it to you, but if you can imagine, hard on my back. My first ever ghost hunting. Oh my God, I was something scared. I was very, very scared. come on, let's go. But of course we couldn't run because of this possibility of a pit. So we were going as fast as we could, getting out of the place. I didn't go there again for many years, until one day I was with 2 children and they were saying to me, can we do something scary? And I said, well, I don't know anything scary. And they kept going on about it. I said, well, okay, I'll take you to some ghost woods, thinking there's going to be nothing there because it was in the middle of the daytime. We got to the ruined manor, and one of the children only suddenly became really scared. So scared we had to leave. I kept wondering, why was she scared and me and the other child weren't? When the photographs were developed, she had an image of a woman on her face, an old lady, maybe the head of the headless grey lady. So that's how I became interested in these things. And over the years, I have now got, I don't know, maybe hundreds of stories. Having done these things professionally now for over 30 years, and quite big time, lecturing around the world, at one time, I was actually investigated, I think, from above, because people are watching you from above. They can see how you're progressing on the planet, good, bad, or ugly. I had a meeting, and I was given options of what to do with my life. And I was given 3 pathways to choose from. One pathway was healing. This is an umbrella word, okay? Umbrella word for anything whatsoever to do with healing. The second pathway was the psychic, or if you like, the paranormal. Again, many subjects under that heading. And the third pathway was spiritual, and that includes the soul and the destiny, and again, many subjects under that. And I was shown how deep these 3 umbrella pathways could be. And I was given the choice which one to follow. I didn't want to follow one path. I'm a bit greedy. Don't ever give me a box of chocolates. It's not going to last. So I didn't want to choose one. I said, no, I'd like to do all of them. And in fact, that's what I did. I was also, though, I was given the drawbacks of each path as well, so that I can make a conscious decision which way to go. The drawback of spirituality was that there are too many people doing it already. The world doesn't need me. I'm not needed to teach spiritual subjects, really. The drawback of the metaphysical, the paranormal, the psychic, is that, quite frankly, a lot of people could be negatively affected by those things, and that's not an option I was told was the best pathway in the world. The job of healing, now that's a different thing, because the healing subjects embrace the healing of people affected negatively by the paranormal, and it embraces the spiritual healing needs as well. So I actually chose as my prime way forwards anything to do with healing. And in that process, after choosing that, for the next 10 years, and this was in the 1980s, for the next 10 years, when I had somebody sitting in front of me, we were just talking normally, and then suddenly I would be able to understand their illness. I would confirm it with them what they had. And they had a particular condition, maybe on one occasion depression. And this lady had been depressed for 6 years, and she was telling me her story. I find myself sometimes in this 10-year period asking these people to sit down, put their feet flat on the floor, one hand on each leg, and close their eyes. I never knew what would happen next. But what happened next was a cure. A whole process came through me, unique for that particular condition. The one for depression, she was cured. I stayed friends with her. She never had her depression again, and I now teach that method, and it's highly successful even for people in hospital. On another occasion, I was asked to help somebody dying of cancer, sent home from the hospital so she could die at home that week, and I wondered why the heck I was there. What's the point? I know nothing about cancer. But actually, a whole program of how to help people in that situation flooded through me. I had my pen and paper, and I actually wrote it down as it flowed through me. I've still got the notes at home. This lady who couldn't walk or talk or eat, 3 days later, or 4 days later, she came out for dinner with us. The doctors were shocked. They wanted me to work in the hospital, but I've been asked many times that sort of thing, but always too busy. By the way, I ended up teaching cancer program, and I did have a cancer website, but I'm so busy, I've had to close down most of my websites. I've just got allansweeney.com now. I've also written 20 books, and I'm publishing or finishing my 21st right now. Currently, it's about 750 pages, all about the metaphysical journey I've been on. So this pathway really ended up on a very long journey all around the world, in Dubai, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, many countries around the world, including 4 royal families. And those 3 umbrella headings that I've chosen to lead my life along: healing, psychic, spiritual. On the healing path, I teach 84 healing subjects. On the psychic path, I teach 63 psychic subjects. And by the way, I don't just teach, I practice all of them myself. And on the spiritual path, I don't know how many subjects, actually, I've never counted, but the angelic force, the angelic life pathway and destiny, and the stepping stones along the way, and many things. The main healing subject was Reiki, and I was the honorary president of Reiki in Japan. In fact, the first person to go to Japan from the Western world and discover the Japanese Reiki masters. So I was asked to be their honorary president because when I arrived in Japan, straight from the airport, they took me to a gathering of Japanese Reiki masters, and they fired questions at me for 2.5 hours. But I love questions. So I was made their honorary president. So anyway, if you're in Reiki, especially if you've had bad experiences, and unfortunately not everybody has good experiences of anything whatsoever in this world. So it doesn't matter what the subject is, and that includes Reiki. So if you need any help with that, you're welcome to get in touch with me as well. So that's just a little bit about me. If anybody needs any help, if you're in any danger, you're welcome to contact me. Or if there's things you don't understand that's happened to you, please let me know. Thank you.